A few days ago, the longest oil war in 50 years ended. The Strait of Hormuz is reopening as we speak, and almost nobody is asking the question that actually matters. Did the petrodollar survive it? Because right now, on every barrel of oil shipped anywhere on Earth, there's an invisible IOU pinned to the side. The IOU says one thing: redeemable only at the US Treasury. Nobody put it there with tape, nobody voted for it. But for 50 years, every country has signed it, every time. And for 90 days, they almost stopped. Let me back up, because to understand what almost happened just days ago, you have to understand the most valuable secret in the global economy. Why oil equals dollars, how that almost broke this year, and what happens next. Here's something they don't tell you in school. If oil stops flowing tomorrow, the world has about 30 days. 30 days of food on supermarket shelves. 30 days before fertilizer factories shut down. 30 days before the trucks that move everything stop moving. Oil isn't just fuel, it's plastic, it's medicine, it's the asphalt under your tires and the polyester in your shirt. It's the oxygen of every modern economy. And there's exactly one currency on Earth you can use to buy it. That currency is the US dollar. Not because of some economic law, not because of supply and demand, because of a single handshake in 1974 that just got tested in a war. To understand what almost happened yesterday, you have to go back to 1944. World War II was ending. The world's economies were destroyed. The Allies met at a ski resort in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods, and they agreed on one rule. Every currency would be pegged to the US dollar, and the dollar would be pegged to gold. $35, 1 ounce of gold, forever. This worked for about 25 years. Then the United States printed too many dollars. Vietnam, the Great Society, Cold War spending. France noticed. So did Switzerland. So did Britain. They started showing up at the US Treasury with stacks of dollars and asking for the gold those dollars were supposed to represent. Nixon didn't decouple from gold because he wanted to. He did it because France was about to call his bluff. In August 1971, Nixon went on television and said, "The gold window is closed. From now on, the dollar is backed by nothing." The world panicked. Because if the dollar is backed by nothing, why would anyone hold dollars? Here's the thing about a global currency. It only works if everyone wants to hold it. And in 1971, suddenly, nobody did. The US needed a new anchor, and it needed one fast. Then in 1973, a gift. Egypt and Syria attacked Israel. The US backed Israel. OPEC backed the Arabs, and as punishment, OPEC turned off the oil tap. Oil prices quadrupled in 6 months. Gas stations in America ran dry. Lines stretched for miles. Kissinger saw an opportunity nobody else saw. In 1974, he flew to Saudi Arabia, and he made an offer the Saudis couldn't refuse. Kissinger said, "We'll guarantee your security, forever. American military protection, American weapons, American training, whatever you need. In exchange, you sell your oil only in dollars. And whatever dollars you don't spend, you use to buy US Treasury bonds." The Saudis said yes. That handshake never appeared on a piece of paper. There was no signing ceremony, no press conference. Just a deal between two men in a room. And that's the moment the invisible IOU got pinned to its first barrel. A Saudi tanker leaves the port of Ras Tanura, loaded with crude, heading to Japan, heading to Germany, heading to South Korea. And the receipt says, "Pay in dollars only." The world signed, and it kept signing for 50 years. Here's how this works. Stay with me for 60 seconds. If you've ever wondered why sanctions actually work, this is it. Japan needs oil. Japan has no oil. Japan must buy oil from somebody. That somebody sells oil only in dollars. So Japan needs dollars. A lot of dollars. Japan doesn't make dollars. Japan makes Toyotas, Sonys, Nintendos. So Japan has to sell Toyotas to America to get dollars to buy oil from Saudi Arabia. Multiply this by every country on Earth that needs oil, which is every country on Earth. Suddenly, everyone needs dollars, constantly, forever. And when everyone needs your currency, you can print as much of it as you want because there's always demand. This is the trick, the biggest macroeconomic trick of the 20th century. The United States gets to spend money it doesn't have, and the world gets to fight for the privilege of lending it back. Because here's where the loop closes. Saudi Arabia sells oil, gets paid in dollars. Now they have billions of dollars sitting around. What do they do with them? They buy US Treasury bonds, which is just a fancy way of saying they lend the money back to the United States. The United States borrows that money at the lowest interest rate in the world and spends it on aircraft carriers. And those aircraft carriers protect the Strait of Hormuz, which keeps the oil flowing, which keeps the dollars flowing, which buys more aircraft carriers. The IOU pile on the US Treasury desk just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's the greatest financial perpetual motion machine in history, and nobody outside of finance even knows it exists. But here's the part nobody tells you. The petrodollar didn't trap the world, it trapped Saudi Arabia. Think about it. Saudi Arabia got American protection. Saudi Arabia got the best weapons on earth. Saudi Arabia got a security guarantee from the most powerful military in human history. They also got something they didn't fully understand at the time. They became the single most dollar-dependent economy on the planet. Saudi Arabia can't sell its oil in any other currency, because if they did, the value of every dollar they're holding would collapse, including their own reserves. Saudi Arabia can't spend its dollar reserves freely, because those reserves are mostly treasury bonds, which means they're loans to the United States, which means the United States gets to set the rules. Every dollar Saudi Arabia earns from oil flows straight back into the American financial system, by design. They sold their economic sovereignty for a security guarantee. And then in February of this year, that security guarantee got tested, and the result was not what they expected. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel attacked Iran. It was the biggest war in the Middle East since 1973. The Strait of Hormuz closed. Oil hit $126 a barrel. Gas prices in Europe doubled. India ran out of natural gas. And the Gulf states, the ones whose security was supposedly guaranteed by the petrodollar, refused to let American planes use their airspace. Let me say that again. The countries the U.S. has been protecting for 50 years told the U.S. no. And while they were saying no, Iran did something even bigger. Iran told oil tankers they could pass through the Strait of Hormuz if they paid in Chinese yuan. In 90 days, the IOU on every barrel got tested in a way it hadn't been tested in 50 years, and it almost came off. The UAE went to the US Treasury and told them, directly, if dollar liquidity gets any tighter, we switch to yuan. Not as a threat, as arithmetic. Gulf sovereign wealth funds quietly diversified. 70% of their assets are now in equities, not treasuries. And then, just days ago, the war ended. The strait reopened. Oil crashed back to $83. And on every barrel of oil leaving Saudi Arabia today, the IOU is still pinned to the side, just a little looser than it was 3 months ago. The petrodollar didn't die, but for the first time in 50 years, we found out what its limit looks like. Iran asked for yuan. The Gulf said no to America. The Treasury got a phone call from Abu Dhabi that nobody wanted. And on every barrel of oil shipped anywhere on Earth today, the green slip is still there. Still says, redeemable only at the US Treasury. But the pinholes are visible now, and everyone in the room saw them.